What's your favorite scary movie?
Be like, I'm dying.
If some guy came up to me and said, "Hey, they guys," I'm like, "It's over and done. We're married now."
Someone in the movies where I'm like, kiss. But
Oh God, what a sea of humanity.
Oh, it just kind of goes abruptly into it. I'm so used to the "What's up, Butters" thing being there. Wow, that was strange. That was definitely weird. Well, Happy New Year and welcome to 52/1994. We're in the year 2024, and that's 30 years from these movies that we're about to talk about. 1994 movies, in fact. But again, welcome to 52/1994 for the second season of the 52/universe, the 52-niverse, with these movies. This is a live movie conversation podcast where we discuss movies from the year 1994. I am your host, Cody, and I'm joined by my co-host this week, Alyssa. Thank you for joining me, Alyssa.
thank you for having me.
If this is your first time joining us, welcome in. We're happy for you to join us today. Just to give you a little bit of a heads up, what we do is we pick 52 movies from the year 1994 because it's the 30th anniversary of all these films. And it doesn't matter if they're good or they're bad or if they're somewhere in the middle. But we talk about as many as we can. Usually we pick these by the important movies that are released this year. And every month we have like a little bit of a category or a theme that we are going over. That's kind of a different thing that we're doing this season as opposed to last season where we did it by theatrical release. And I think it's going to be an interesting way of doing these things. But then I usually have a guest host on here to talk about the movie and then maybe ask them a few questions about what they've been watching, or if they're new, we might get a little bit deeper with them for their first time. But anyway, Alyssa is back. She's a veteran now. And we're going to be talking about the movie because it is Jim Carrey month, the year of Jim Carrey, as it is. That's what I'm calling it. The year of Jim Carrey is 1994. And we're going to be talking about The Mask, which is definitely a movie that we watched. And Alyssa, I know I already know the answer to this, but have you ever seen The Mask before?
I have not. Add it to the very long list of movies I have never seen.
Did you have any impression of what this film was prior to watching the film?
No, I went in fully blind. Now, I the only thing I guess I know is Jim Carrey, right? He's with his facial expressions, his body language, his voices, like those are all things I know that he does in his movies, and I assumed we'd see that. And we certainly did. But I knew nothing about the plot. I knew nothing about the movie at all.
So you didn't even know that he wore a mask?
No. Actually, I was thinking about this today, and I think I would get this because I've also never seen Me, Myself, and Irene.
Mm-hmm.
And the poster, the for Me, Myself, and Irene is Jim Carrey's face split down the middle with him making two different facial expressions, because that's the movie where he has a split personality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would get The Mask mixed up with Me, Myself, and Irene, because I've seen neither of them. I know they're both Jim Carrey movies, and in the posters, like, he's got those two different facial expressions. I was like, oh, one of them's him wearing a mask. But yeah, no, I knew nothing. I knew nothing at all.
Yeah, chat seems to be telling us it's basically the same movie, so you're pretty much right, spot on there. So another question I want to ask you before we really dive into The Mask for the week is, because you hadn't seen it, what was your first impression of The Mask as you started watching it?
It was a lot. I didn't love it. It was like, again, when you go in blind and not having any idea what's to come, not expecting there to be essentially an animated element to the movie. It was pretty wild. It was quite shocking. I was not anticipating any of it, and I wish I had done a little more research before I put the movie on.
That's you did say that quite a few times as we were watching the movie. Like, I wish I had known what I was getting into.
I think it would have helped. I think it would have helped a lot. Like,
now,
to have some context.
Now, do you think that this movie gets made in 2024?
Never.
Never.
Well, I was thinking about this too. Like, and we'll get into this, but the idea of Loki, like the mask potentially has some connection to Loki, the god of mischief. And in the 2024 current world, we know way more about Loki, or an idea of Loki, based off of Marvel. But I was like, how many people know about Loki in 1994?
Not a lot. Not a lot. That was never like the hot mythology to know. The hot mythology in the 90s was Greek mythology.
And they just like brush past that information 2/3 of the way through the movie. And I was like, maybe that, I don't know, maybe whatever. But I just thought that was interesting.
Somebody said that they would 10 out of 10 watch The Mask as made in 2024. I'd be interested to see a 2024 version of this, and I'm sure we'll have some ideas when we get to that part later down the line. But I just wanted to get those questions out of the way as a way of kind of breaking through the ice of The Mask and getting in the mood to talk about it. Real quick, just want to tell everybody, again, this is the year of Jim Carrey. I keep talking about that. We're going to be doing this. Obviously, we're doing The Mask. We're also going to be doing Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and Dumb and Dumber. Those are the three movies that Jim Carrey had come out in 1994. This one was the second one of the three. I think Ace Ventura did come out first, but I wanted to switch up the order a little bit. And one thing that I did in my research, and I remembered this because it was an interview that Jim Carrey did when he was on Oprah, I think in 1997. So Jim Carrey's like the biggest star in the world in 1997. But he was talking, it was like this very like spirit, of course it was with Oprah, but he was talking about this very spiritual thing that he had done. Like, maybe manifesting is the best way to do that. But in 1985, he wrote himself a check for $10 million and dated it for Thanksgiving of 1995. And he wrote himself a check for acting services rendered. He gave himself a few years, he gave himself about 5 years to get started and everything. And he just kept it in his wallet. And so after this year of Jim Carrey that we're talking about now, he found out that he was going to make $10 million for Dumb and Dumber, which is, his last movie of this year. But that was after, the box office successes of this movie and Ace Ventura and all this. And his father also passed away sometime during this, like 94, 95 or something like that. And I believe it was his dad that had encouraged him to act and do comedy and all this stuff. And at his father's funeral, he put the $10 million check in his the casket as he said goodbye to his dad and everything. So I thought that was kind of an interesting story, pretty crazy story that he bet on himself and ended up, doing it. So this interview, you can find it on YouTube. It's with Oprah again, and it's just about visualization and manifesting. So they were doing that in 1997 too. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, cool little story. But he definitely gets paid. I think at one point, Jim Carrey is the highest paid actor in Hollywood.
I believe it.
It's like Jim Carrey and Julia Roberts on the other side were like the two hottest names in the 90s. So
did they ever do anything together?
No, but that sounds like a dream, right?
That'd be a great movie. That
would be a great movie. You're right. Too bad we don't have Gary Marshall around to direct it, like a Runaway Bride / Pretty Woman-esque thing. So it'd be pretty interesting. Anyway, let's talk about The Mask. Sorry, I was taking a drink of water. This movie was directed by Charles Russell. It came out, I did not have this listed, but it came out July 28th, 1994. So middle of the year for this movie. It was written by Michael Fallon and Mark Verheiden, and it was based on the Dark Horse comic of the same name. And the cast, I'm only going to list a few here. Jim Carrey plays the title of the titular character, the Mask. Also, Stanley Ipkiss is his name. Cameron Diaz, in her first acting role, plays Tina Carlisle. Peter Green plays Dorian Tyrell. Peter Reigert plays Lieutenant Mitch Kellaway. Amy Yazbek plays Peggy Brandt. Ben Stein's in here. Reggie Cathy's in here as some other roles. Jolie Fisher's in here. She's a famous actress in the 90s as well. Want to give her dues. Max the dog plays Milo. Got to give him some love, some flowers here. So a decent cast, and nice to see Cameron Diaz as Tina Carlisle in this. Get some recognition. This kind of launches Cameron Diaz, and I've got a tidbit of information about her later in getting this role and securing this role. But let me give you the synopsis that I got from Google. When timid bank clerk Stanley Ipkiss discovers a magical mask containing the spirit of the Norse god Loki, his entire life changes. While wearing the mask, Ipkiss becomes a supernatural playboy exuding charm and confidence, which allows him to catch the eye of a local nightclub singer, Tina Carlisle. Unfortunately, under the mask's influence, Ipkiss also robs a bank, which angers junior crime lord Dorian Tyrell, whose goons get blamed for the heist. It's
I think
okay.
Best description that you've brought to this show.
That's pretty good.
3 sentences long as opposed to 1, but that is the plot.
This movie had a budget of $23 million, and wait for this, folks, a box office return of $351.6 million. This is the number 9 movie of 1994.
Wow.
It's insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm shocked at the box office returns for all 3 of his movies. I looked them up.
Is this the one or no?
This is the second of the 3.
Wow. That's wild.
I want to go back and address somebody in the chat said, can you imagine having The Mask as your first movie role for Cameron Diaz to launch your career? Like, put this on your resume.
Yeah.
The Mask. It's pretty wild. She did okay. I think she did okay. Let's hear what some other people had to say about this movie, because this is all over the place. Like, and again, some of this is from 1994. Some of this is from today. So Rotten Tomatoes gives this movie a rating of 80%. This is a certified fresh movie for Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb has it at 6.9 out of 10. Letterboxd has that as at 3.3 out of 5. Here's a couple reviews from 1994 for you. The Mask is a perfect vehicle for the talents of Jim Carrey, who underwhelmed me with Ace Ventura, but here seems to have found a story and character that work together with manic energy. Roger Ebert gave this 3 out of 4 stars. He loved it. Wow. And Janet Maslin of the New York Times said, bright-eyed, crazily intense, irrepressibly silly, Mr. Carrey can be funny without fireworks. He deserves material clever enough to let him do just that. She gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. So, and just kind of give you an idea of what this movie did after it was a huge success. One, it did get an Oscar nomination it was nominated for Best Visual Effects.
Okay.
1994, but it lost out to Forrest Gump.
Okay.
And this also got turned into a video game. It was turned into an animated series. It had, I think, 2 seasons, or like the equivalent of like 52 episodes. We should do that for a 52 series. Watch an episode every week. Who's in?
Who's not chomping at the bit for that?
Joseph will do it with me. There's a sequel in 2005 called Son of the Mask, which is considered one of the worst movies of all time. Stars Jamie Kennedy in the lead role. and I think a mask gets on a baby at one point. And I think Loki actually is in that movie.
Oh.
But it's not Tom Hiddleston.
Oh.
So
the universe is colliding.
Yeah, that would be great. The MCU and the Mask universe get together. So somebody said that they already watched all 52 episodes this weekend of The Mask. So that's good. Let's get in here and tell me the plot of The Mask. Anyway, let's break this movie down a little bit. First, I want to start with some of the best scenes that we have. I listed 3 out that I think are pretty important scenes, and we can kind of discuss them a little bit further if we want to. But I think this movie breaks down into really 3 main parts, and I'll just kind of briefly talk about that. The first one is when he puts on the mask.
Yes.
And you have the landlady, you have the thugs that are trying to pickpocket him or just mug him, I guess. And then the auto shop thing that all happens in that first scene there. And then I have the Coco Bongo Lounge part 1, where he's wearing the yellow suit. He dances with Tina. He's got all this stuff. And then the ending with the Coco Bongo, which is the big climax of the whole movie and everything. So is there anything that I'm missing in there?
No, it's essentially like the 3 nights he wears the mask can be the 3. You can break the movie down into those 3 nights.
Yeah. I definitely want to give some props to the park scene as well.
But yeah, that's part of the final, right? Or no, I guess.
No, that's like in between, because he gets arrested. This is when he gets arrested. But that's like his Pepe Le Pew moment where he's dressed like they're doing the switch. Stanley's there, and then he switches into the French version of the mask. But let's kind of walk through that first, when he first puts on the mask. I want to know what you're thinking.
Everything was so tame up to this point. Like everything's normal. Like there's nothing odd, or like there's comical moments. There's like, you're getting introduced to characters, and then all of a sudden he puts this mask on and it gets like sucked onto his face. And
better sucked on than sucked off.
I guess. And just chaos ensues. And that's when he starts the iconic catchphrases of smoking, like himself in the mirror, and he goes out and he just the clock goes off in his pocket and he tries to bash it with a hammer, and you're like, oh, this is a cartoon now. Like it was very cartoon-esque, just like pulling things out of his pocket that shouldn't fit, like it's a Mary Poppins purse, and like I said, and causing a tornado in the car shop, and it was just chaos, absolute chaos ensues.
It goes from 0 to 60 real quick. Like, I mean, yeah, you're right. Up till this point, it is very tame. And then you have all the moments where basically when he puts on the mask, he can literally do anything that he wants, pull anything out that he wants, turn anything into anything. What did you say?
He's invincible.
Yeah,
quite
absolutely.
He doesn't die. Any of the times that he falls out the window, he gets shot, like, and all those things, he just survives.
And it's and the 3 scenes that we see there with like the landlady, the muggers, and the auto shop things, like 2 out of those 3 we see earlier in the movie, of like the landlady yelling at Stanley and taking damages out of his rent because he was soaked, and then the auto shop guy is pretty much that they're ripping him off and screwing him over. We didn't see, this is a scene cut from the movie, but we didn't see earlier where Stanley gets mugged by that same group of people. So that was actually in the movie and would make more sense, that he's getting revenge on those guys. Yeah, that's the basis of all this. Like, oh, I'm going to use these things. Like, I think you talked about it best when you were explaining psychology to me, and me just being like, no, but we were talking about the id, the ego, the super ego, and stuff like that. But like all of these things seem like repressed within Stanley, and then once he puts on the mask, he's free to do any of these things that he wants. It's kind of comparable to Trump winning the 2016 election, where it just gave everybody the freedom to say whatever they want on the internet, because why not?
Big yikes.
Yeah. Sorry, I just pulled that one out. I made it political.
I was like, we could have come up with a different example, but
No, that one's perfect.
You're not wrong.
All right. Did you have any other scenes besides those? I want to talk about the Coco Bongo Part 1 scene.
Mhm.
Somebody said earlier, fashion icon. I think that this, the yellow suit is the perfect, like when I think of the mask, I think of the yellow suit.
Mhm.
The zoot suit with the big hat, everything. And we also get a dance number. There are 2 dance numbers in this movie. It's very theatrical.
Yeah, it's very cartoony.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This VOD is so political now. Must be because it's an election year. You're right. It's 2024. It's an election year. I got to put out my thoughts. I got to, we have to find out who I can't even think of the word. Not sponsoring, but supporting. That's the word. Thank you. You're the best. But yeah, that Coco Bongo. We also get more of a parallel with the cartoons that Stanley watches whenever he goes home. You see the Tex Avery cartoons that he watches that his landlady yells at him about. But the wolf like banging on the table and whistling at the pretty girl singing. So it's basically the exact same scene, just a recreation of that with Cameron Diaz's character. And then we get the shootout and the cops coming in. But the main part of that scene is him connecting with Cameron Diaz as the masked character. I feel like it's a very Superman, Lois Lane. I feel like that's very comparable there. Like she falls in love with Superman. She doesn't fall in love with Clark Kent.
That's a really great comparison.
Yeah.
Guy comes in, sweeps her off her feet, quite literally and figuratively. And they have a blast.
One thing I want to know, like I noticed on this watch, and this is, one of my mini watches of The Mask, and your first watch is like, nobody cares that he's green.
I wondered about that. Like, I kind of wondered, I mean, they seem to all know that it's a mask, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody knows that this is a mask. Because when you're watching it, I'm like, I wouldn't call that a mask. I call it like a headpiece or like a helmet or it's not just the original, like when you look at it, not just the front, like wooden plank mask, it's the whole head thing. But it looks real because again, he can move his mouth and he can move his facial expressions and do all these wacky things with his body that I'm like, really? It's like everyone's just assuming it. And they're like, oh yeah, he's wearing a mask. And I'm like, this person would scare me if I saw them walking down the street.
Yeah.
I did also kind of wonder, like, if there were more magical properties to the mask that we didn't understand. And I was getting way into that's getting way too deep, but being like, it does maybe because he is so charming that it doesn't matter what he looks like.
Yeah, that has to be it.
Like everyone's under like a spell, like a quote unquote type of spell of some sort. They're like, guy's it.
I think you're right on that. I think that there's probably some mystical element that is attached to this where people just, because they refer to him as the Mask. Like that's what they write in the papers. They know it's a mask, but like nobody seems to care in the moment. This guy rolls up in a long ass limo and starts throwing money everywhere and I guess people just like him. You throw money at me, I'll like you. I don't care.
Yeah. And then like, even like when they're shooting at him in the club and his body is like swaying side to side in a way that is not human, that is very cartoony, that like no one, like if I saw that happen in front of me in real life, I would scream. Like that would be terrifying because like human bodies don't move that way. But every, like when they're just staring at him like angry because they can't kill him. And I'm like, priorities are not in line. But that's why I'm like, there has to be another element that we don't understand if they're like just accepting this as reality.
Right. And I honestly do think that there is some kind of like weird spell that they're under now that I'm thinking about it more. There's that scene, and I'll talk about it later, but like where he does get shot and then he breaks into like 4 different characters as he's dying. He's doing his like dying scene. And at the end of his thing, like you see it like an Oscar speech comes up, and like there's an audience standing there clapping and everything, and the 2 actors, the 2 people that are with, act like they can see those people. So
he gets handed an award, like that comes out of nowhere. He's physically holding something.
yeah, so it's like they have to be under some kind of spell. I think we're just we're probably overanalyzing this a little bit, but like that's one thing I did notice on this rewatch was like, oh, they're acting with him, that like these things are real. It's not just make believe.
Their perception is reality. They're like, yep, this is happening.
I don't know what this comment's about that would turn me
Maybe
on.
I was horrified by the way his body moved.
Oh. He also said that it was a skin helmet, which I think is probably the best way to call the mask what it is. It's a skin helmet. That's also another name for a condom, I think. So
Great.
Whatever. You're so uncomfortable when I say things. And then finally that last scene, or I'll give credit to the Pepe Le Pew scene. It's a shorter scene, and it's basically just to get a big dance number with the cops, which is very funny and enjoyable. But yeah, the ending with the Coco Bongo scene where everything comes together. You've got Stanley's friend coming to save the day. Stanley, who's kind of manned up in that sense, like
without the mask,
a popular trope we see, coming to save the day. The dog getting the mask at some point. Dorian being the scariest living thing on the planet.
I was also kind of surprised that when he puts on the mask, how different he looks than Jim Carrey's. Like he still has hair.
He still has hair. It's like only
like double in size. Yeah, they just look very different.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, whoever puts on the mask, whatever their deeper or inside person is, comes out. So Dorian thinks he's bigger than he actually is. Probably has some Napoleon syndrome a little bit there. So he grows. His neck gets huge. So, all right. Who's your favorite character in this movie? I think I know the answer. But I think of them more as a scene stealer, but yeah, who's your favorite character in the movie?
Milo the dog.
Yep. It's gotta be Milo the dog.
Best. Milo deserves every award, deserves all the recognition. He worked really hard and he did a very good job.
He was a very good boy.
Yes.
11 out of 10.
11
would recommend.
Milo was my favorite.
Milo, I believe, is the same dog throughout the entire 90s. That was in like Frasier and all these other movies that were this Jack Russell Terrier was in. I think it's the same dog. If it's not, then there's another Jack Russell Terrier out there that stole all the spots from Max.
I say Wishbone. Like, yeah, Jack Russells were like the it dog.
Yeah. This might be Wishbone. It's not Wishbone.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool. I just looked up Max the dog from The Mask, and there is one of the first articles that comes up is an Entertainment Weekly article from '94 that says Max the dog steals the mask.
Yes.
So we're not wrong.
Not wrong.
Not wrong at all. I do want to point out though, and maybe you had this later in this, but when I watched this movie with Alyssa, and there was a scene when Peggy, the reporter, takes $50,000 for turning Stanley in, Alyssa was just like snapping in the air and like, yes, girl, get that money.
By this point in the movie, I am done. I am done. I was annoyed that because she like essentially comes in and rescues him with only meeting him once, only knowing him from a letter he sent into her column that was titled "Nice Guys Finish Last," and I'm like, that's a walking fucking red flag. And then she just happens to come in, like rescue him, and is like talking to him, and like she's like, "You're such a great guy," and I'm like, "You've known him for 10 minutes. Stop it." And then the guys come in and they give her the money, and I go, "Oh, one that makes way more sense." To hell yeah. And I was just like so tired of Stanley. I was like, he's being dumb, and the mask is dumb, and I was angry. I was like, "It's funny."
I in the moment I was like, "No, boo Peggy," kind of like what Joe's saying in the chat. But like, I thought about it some more, and I was like, "Yeah, you're right." Like, she's breaking the stereotype of like he's the nice guy, and she's not allowed to get ahead because I'm just looking for a nice guy. And then I realized the whole movie is a lie. Like, she's lying about everything.
Yeah.
From beginning to end.
She says in the beginning, like, he's like, "Oh, like," she's like, "You're a journalist," and she doesn't want to do the column anymore. She wants to do more investigative stuff. He's like, "Why?" And she goes, "The column pays dick," which is a hilarious line, but she tells you exactly who she is up front. So like, that's her main goal. Also, we have both Peggy and Tina. Like, one of them had to become a bad guy. Mm-hmm. Like the one of them had to, because he couldn't end up with both. So it was like one of them was gonna betray him, turn against him, do something, and then for us to hate them, and then the other one was gonna become his love interest. And up to that point, I wasn't sure which one it was going to be. So when Peggy was like, "I'm gonna do the heel turn," I'm like, let's go.
I love it, and I love the snapping that happened. I love the
I support women's rights and wrongs.
Jeez. Oh my gosh. Yep. That is something that does happen. Peggy does die in a deleted scene.
Horrible.
Yeah, she actually, so Dorian, in that scene, Dorian puts on the mask, and I think she asks him for something, and then he throws her into the paper thing.
Oh, God.
And it like flattens her face onto it, and like you see the story that's like reporter died or smashed or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, but they chose to take it out because Peggy shows up in the animated series.
Oh, okay.
So there is no Tina in the animated series. It's only Peggy in the animated series. So
okay. And it does, again, it still plays into, I feel like in any type of superhero movie, you have to have some type of reporter. Like it's in Spider-Man, I think isn't Lois Lane a reporter? Or
no, Lois Lane and Superman.
Yeah, like there's that has to be part of the element.
Yeah. I support Peggy in her endeavor. She's trying to get that paper, and writing for the paper ain't paying the bills. So I think somebody figured this out. She actually says 2 different papers that she's working for in 2 different scenes. Mm-hmm. One time she's talking to the cop. She says she works for the Post or something. And then the next scene, she says she works for the Tribune. So she's just trying to make ends meet. She's got to pay for that condo. So
I don't blame her.
Who knows what the cost of living is in Edge City? So
she said it's hard to find an apartment.
It's hard to find an apartment. You're right. All right. We've already talked about a couple quotes from this movie, but are there any quotes that stood out to you besides it pays dick?
I only pulled out 2 because there's so many iconic words or one-liners that everybody already knows, like the smoking and that's a spicy meatball. So I pulled out 2 for me. One was when Stanley wakes up the next morning after the first night of wearing the mask, and the lieutenant is knocking on his door. He answers the door. The lieutenant's explaining to him all this craziness that happened the night before, and Stanley says, "This is impossible." And Lieutenant Calloway says, "Those pajamas are impossible. This actually happened," which sounded like a RuPaul's Drag Race read. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, it's like, "Those pajamas are impossible." I was like, I lost it. I thought that was the funniest line. I was like, that is so unnecessary to comment on this man's pajamas, but in the middle of an investigation. That was my top favorite
That was your favorite quote?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, I had one more, and it was
Yes.
when the mask is in his Pepe Le Pew in the park French situation. He says, "Jet the door, jet the window, I don't care," and that reminded me of "To the window, to the wall," and so jet the window.
I love that. That is one of my quotes. That's also a quote that I didn't know what he was saying because I was a child and didn't know that he was speaking French and jet the door. But I thought that line was so funny when I was a kid. Among all the other ones that he says, including "smoking" and "somebody stop me," and one of my personal favorites, "it's party time," PARTY, because I gotta. When he smashes himself on the ground, he says, "Look, Mom, roadkill." And then this time around, the line that I probably didn't understand because I was a child that really stuck out to me, and it's during the Pepe Le Pew scene, is "Our love is like a red, red rose, and I am a little thorny." So I didn't get that one when I was a child, but
Yeah. He also said something like, "I'm going to pull out my croissant." And I was like,
my baguette and my croissant. Anytime he's wearing the mask, it's basically all made up on the spot. Like, it's all improv.
That's wild.
From him. So I did have "We All Wear Masks," metaphorically speaking, listed as one of mine as well. And I was talking to Joseph, and he said one of his favorites is "Hold on to your lug nuts, boys. It's time for an overhaul." And that was right before he shoved mufflers up their butts.
Yeah, I was briefly like they're just like being rolled out, and then it just like and I was like, wait a second. I was like, something happened here.
The mask is the sole reason I know what a proctologist is. Because of that scene. Because I remember asking my parents or asking one of my sisters, like, "What's a proctologist?"
Easily.
And they just said "butt doctor." And I was like, all right, cool. We're good.
Understood.
Did we miss anything else? Okay, we've got a couple in the chat here. "Hold on, sugar. Daddy's got a sweet tooth tonight."
The entire him dying and going
Oh
back.
my
It's
God,
like,
yeah.
Tell mama I love her, and just like that going back and forth, and then just hacking all over.
Which kind of goes into my next thing. Biggest laugh, cry, scare, or thrill? What did you have listed as the biggest laugh that you had?
So my biggest laugh, other than "this is impossible, those pajamas are impossible," was I guess this was my biggest laugh, but both dancing scenes, the dancing in the lounge and him just like going up at the front and being like, "We're doing this," and he like grabs Tina and whisks her around. And then when like the dancing scene when he's singing and doing like a marimba in the parking lot and gets the like again puts a spell on the cops to like dance with them, and they start doing a conga line. That I would love the conga line. Those like moments made me laugh a lot because that's very cartoony to just break out into song and dance and have everybody join in.
Yeah, I had when that same scene, I love both of the dance scenes. They're amazing. Before the dance scene, when they actually arrest him or start frisking him, and they are just continually pulling out things. I thought that was pretty funny.
So much stuff. He's just surrounded by like very Mary Poppins getting all out of his pockets.
They pull out the bazooka, and he's like, "I've got a permit for that." I love that. So I thought that was very funny, but also just pulling back to the scene where he goes through the like 3 different death scenes where he's like, he says the Old Yeller, "Tell Mama to say goodbye to Old Yeller for me, and tell Tiny Tim I won't be coming home for Christmas." And coughing. Yes. The coughing between each one is so funny to me. I think that is the funniest part in this whole movie is that scene. Any scares or thrills or cries? Because I know you were probably crying.
No, as I don't have any. I was not moved to tears.
I think that anytime that Dorian has the mask on is pretty terrifying. Like, not really terrifying. I'm not like having nightmares about it, but that's a scary looking dude.
Yeah. You're just like, oh no, this isn't good.
It's not funny looking like the Jim Carrey mask. It's pretty awful.
Yeah.
So, and then like when he tries to kiss Tina and his tongue starts like, yeah, didn't like that. Didn't like that at all. So, what's the most ridiculous moment for you in this ridiculous movie?
All of it? No. I think because again, went in blind, like the whole first night of him doing, like first night of him wearing the mask, I'm like, what is going on? I think when he is trying to stop the muggers and he's like getting revenge on the guys who are going to mug him, he is like doing balloon animals, and then he pulls out a condom from his pocket and he's just has them entranced by, and then he like pulls out all these guns that are his arms and they're just like, no. And I'm like, and I'm like, what is going on?
I particularly like in that scene when he's doing the the balloon animals, when he tries to give the poodle to the guy, and then he just like messes it up and pops it, and he's like, "Sorry, son, she was rabid, she had to be put down."
It's so much. It's so much.
Here's my biggest like, what the heck is going on? Is why does Dorian have a headshot of Nico? That is my biggest complaint with this entire movie. That he puts the cigarette holes out in the eyes. Why does he have a headshot of this guy?
For dramatic effect.
Why does Nico have headshots? Is he an actor?
He's a club owner. Maybe it was from the newspaper. Maybe they printed a story like, hey, this guy owns a club now. And it's open.
He's got a good PR person that sends out headshots with his press releases and everything. Hey, this is Nico. He's important here. No. I also put the escaping from jail scene as pretty ridiculous with Milo. I think it's cute. I think it's cute and everything that Milo can jump 20 feet in the air.
You're like, how did we get here?
Yeah. And IMDb, I saw some notes on IMDb that was like, Jack Russells can actually leap like 6 feet in the air or whatever. And I was like, that was higher than 6 feet?
That was one of my fun facts.
Sorry to say it, but I just don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible. I believe in dogs and I believe in Milo, but I don't believe that they could do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my biggest moment. Anything else that is outside? Obviously, this is a ridiculous movie.
Entire movie's outrageous. Literally all of it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Best music moment.
My favorite, and I keep going back to the first club scene, when Cameron Diaz, Tina is singing, and he comes up and he's like, let's boogie, and the band ramps up and they start dancing. I'm like, this is a bop. Like, this is a lot of fun.
Hey Pachuco is the name of that song.
It was
great freaking song. Loved Hey Pachuco.
I want to go to that club.
The Coco Bongo Club?
Yeah, like it's just, I mean, like everybody's like, it's like dinner and a show. Like, you know, there's the band and the jazz singer, but then you're sitting at tables and it's very like fancy, and it felt very like Palm Springs, very 50s, and I was like, this seems really cool. Like, I would actually want to go to this place.
Apparently there is a real Coco Bongo Club, but it came after this, and it is located in Cancun. So
there you go.
Let's go to Cancun. Let's go to Coco Bongo and see if it's the same thing.
Don't have to ask me twice.
I want to give recognition to Cuban Pete, which is the song that Jim Carrey actually sings and performs whenever he gets all the cops dancing. I really love that. I like Cuban Pete. I thought that was a great song. And then also the score for this movie is actually pretty decent for what it is as a film, like, and that score was by Randy Edelman. So just want to give him his flowers, give Randy some flowers here. Also, fun facts about Cody and his life. I had this soundtrack on cassette tape, and I played the hell out of this. So I don't know if you knew, like, as I was singing the songs, as the credits were rolling or anything like that.
Yeah, you knew the songs. I was just
like... I know a lot of these. Escape has a song on here. Who's That Man? great song. And then some when I was, doing Jesus-y stuff, there was an a cappella group that turned that into a Jesus song and thought that was pretty great. But yeah, this kind of goes into this. So this is 94. This movie and the movie Swingers, which I think comes out this year or next year, kind of lead to this big swing music revival of the 1990s. So you're getting Zoot Suit Riot and Brian Setzer Orchestra, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. All these bands are coming out with this like new cool hip swing music from the, bringing it back and elevating it. So do we think it's time to bring swing back again 30 years later?
Let's do it again.
I'm in. I wanted to swing dance. Those Gap commercials where everybody's in white t-shirts and khakis and just dancing all over the place. I'm in.
I'll teach you.
You'll teach me how to swing?
Yes, there was one point where like there was a move that like Jim Carrey takes her arm and like spins her on the ground, and you're like, "LOL, can you do that?" And I'm like, "I have actually done that. Yes, I have."
Nice.
I can do what they did on the
I
screen.
want to like toss you around my body.
Good. Did I have to do that one? No, Tori had to do that one where like in what they like just hope for the best, and yeah.
That's what you got to have the momentum.
I had one where I was like around some dude, like I was like this way, and that like dropped me to the ground, like rolled down, and it was. I hate heights and I hate being lifted off the ground, and I hated it a lot. But
folks, don't lift her off the ground. She wants her feet on the ground at all times.
But swing dancing is quite easy, and of all the different partner dances, I'll teach you.
Okay, sounds good. I love it. Anybody that can join our swing class. So Tuesdays at 4 every. All right. Now we're up for a new segment. I'm not doing not new segment, but I'm changing it a little bit. We're going to do Smash or Pass with you and see how you do with this. See where you prefer. All right. We'll start out with Charlie, Stanley's best friend.
Pass.
Okay. Peggy.
Smash.
Okay. Nico.
Pass. Wait, Nico's the old guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, pass.
Okay.
That was I was thinking Dorian. Sorry, I was like,
whoa.
No, Nico, pass.
Dr. Newman.
Pass.
Doyle.
Pass.
Oh, really? I was expecting a little different from you.
No, because like Calloway was just like Doyle, and I was like, that just made me giggle every time. But
you love Doyle. You got a big Doyle stan.
I like Calloway saying Doyle.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of Calloway.
You know what? Smash.
All right. Dorian with the mask on.
Pass.
Dorian with no mask.
He's too scary. I'd say smash. Or no,
all
pass.
Right.
Pass.
Stanley with the mask on.
Pass. No, that big bald head and huge teeth, absolutely not.
He does this thing. Okay, and this is one thing I will say now that you've mentioned the teeth and everything. Anytime he says like a joke and then he goes, I hate it every time. Like it annoyed me so much this time I was watching that, and every time he went, ha ha, I hated it. I was really annoyed.
Yeah, no, and then the park scene, absolutely not. With the mask, pass.
No. Stanley with no mask.
Smash.
Okay. Tina.
Smash.
Okay. I saved her for last because I just wanted to see you go smash.
Like, boom. No brainer. No brainer. She's gorgeous.
Who gave the best performance in the movie?
It is absolutely Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
I think he's a genius. I genuinely, as much as I did not love this movie and as horrified as I was watching the entire thing, nobody can do what he does, or no one has replicated what he does. The facial expressions, the voices, the body movement, the improv, him and Robin Williams are like the top two. What they do is incredible. And did not love this movie. His performance was incredible.
I agree 100%. Like and you bringing up Robin Williams as both comic actors in the 1990s, like we had something there of two men that have not. I really do not think anybody has replicated anything that they've ever done. Like
No.
we don't have that anymore.
We don't have impression. I mean, like occasionally you'll get a stand-up who is really good at impressions. Who's that guy that we saw? Like Farrow?
Jay Farrow.
Jay Farrow. Like Jay Farrow is crazy good at impressions. But that's like the only person I can think of.
Bill Hader does impressions. But in what I'm not saying like these are guys that that were missing or anything. Like Bill Hader does impressions, but Bill Hader's not Jim Carrey.
No, like, and there's not just impressions; it's the facial expressions. It's
it's everything.
It's the everything.
I was trying to think of somebody else that does impressions and I couldn't think of them. But like, no, nobody can do what these two guys do. The improv, like just being on your, like, especially like Robin Williams, just as fast as he goes, like nobody can do. And that's what I had the most trouble with my 2024 recast. I didn't even do a 94 recast because I was like, who's going to do it? But yeah, 94 recast. I was like, who is it? I searched forever trying to find like I went through like stand-up comics. I went through like, there are probably some improv comedians out there, but they're not like big or famous or like anything. So I had a lot of trouble with recasting, and I'll probably have a lot of trouble recasting any Jim Carrey movie that we do from here on out.
Yeah, I agree.
So speaking of recasting, who did you do a 94 recast?
No, I think it was so perfectly cast. I don't know who you could have gone with differently.
Yeah.
Even Cameron Diaz. Like, again, it was her breakout role, but I thought she did a great job. It was fun. I
think if they would have went the other way, which is part of my fun facts, I don't think it would have been as good. But 2024 recast, did you give it a shot?
I did. So I specifically, speaking of the swing bands, I want Big Bad Voodoo Daddy to be the band.
Yeah.
like you said, there was a revival. I'm like, I want an actual like cameo band in there to play. So Big Bad Voodoo Daddy is the band I came up with. I do have a recast for Tina, Cameron Diaz's character, and she's not like a well-known person. Her name is Lauren Roscoe. She is a girl that I've seen on TikTok, and she is in fact she's a legitimate lounge singer. Like that is her career. So like she can do the lounge singing, but her look, like I'm looking at Cameron Diaz and like their look is very similar, like the 94 version of Cameron Diaz, like the really full lips, just like the blonde hair, like the cuteness and the sexiness. Like I don't think she's ever acted. I think she's just a singer on TikTok, but I really, I was like, wow, I would just like kind of, she looks like a 2024 version of 1994 Cameron Diaz.
Nice. Yeah.
So that's my one big one. I did not pick anybody for Stanley. The only person that came to mind, and it was specifically for voices, was Mikey Way. From Mikey Day from SNL, but he's like, not too old, but he's in his like I think he's early 40s, like early 40s. And I'm like, I can't think of anybody who's in there late. I'm assuming how old is Stanley in this movie?
He's 31 in this movie.
Okay. I was still having a hard time coming up with age and like figuring out who could be the modern day Jim Carrey, and I'm not going to. But yeah, Mikey Day is the only person I thought of just for voice purposes, but he can't do what he does.
Yeah.
And the last one I had was just to bring back Jim Carrey in a really, really tiny role, specifically the police officer who's sleeping in the jail cell. Because he's only in it for like 3 minutes. And Carrey doesn't really want to act anymore. So I'm like, just throw him in there and take him out.
That'd be fun. That would be a nice little cameo. You could also, maybe you could get him to do the cop.Maybe you could get him to be
I thought that was
Kellaway.
Him an actual role, made him Kellaway. But I was like, nah, because for him to go Doyle would be very. But I was like, just give him 5 minutes. Just make him the sleeping police officer and go from there.
Yeah. The only other so I cast this a little differently. I was desperate because I was like, I wanted to kind of keep the ages, like somebody in their 30s, or early 30s or late 20s for Stanley's character, and I couldn't find anybody.
Mm-mm.
There's no funny people in their 20s. Prove me wrong, please. So I did a little gender bend on this, and I went with Sarah Sherman, who's on Saturday Night Live. She does a lot of like the crazy skits on Saturday Night Live, a lot of like body horror stuff, that she's just and willing to do anything. Like she will make herself gorgeous, or she will uglify herself as much as she can. Like she'll be Pennywise from freaking It if she needs to be. Like, so if you don't know who she is, check out some YouTube clips about Sarah Sherman. She's insane. And then I also chose, like, there's a young guy on Saturday Night Live who has been pretty popular over the last 2 seasons. He's a featured person, but his name's Marcelo Hernandez. I think he's very funny. I don't know if he has the potential to be a Jim Carrey or anything, but he's like the next best thing. He's good in skits, and he's got a great stand-up set. So
I've seen him do stand-up. I think or not live, but I've seen. I haven't watched him on SNL, but I've seen some clips of his stand-up, and I think he is very funny. I didn't think about him.
Yeah. You went with that girl for Tina, and you told me about her, and I think that's a perfect, like, obviously casting somebody like that and in that role is great. I, with limited knowledge of anything, chose Renee Rapp.
Yeah. Actually, I think that's a great pick too.
Yeah, like she's the right age, because Cameron Diaz in this movie is 21 years old.
Wow.
Which is insane. But yeah, Renee Rapp's young. She's a singer. She's an actress. She's going to be in that new Mean Girls movie that comes out in the next a couple weeks. And I think she could do it.
Yes.
Maybe Cameron Dove, or Dove Cameron, I mean.
Yes. Oh my God. That's a great pick too.
Cause I could see her being she kind of has that like Cameron Diaz look about her. It's the eyes.
Yes.
Something with the eyes. Yeah. I just saw a clip on TikTok of Dove Cameron, and that just made me think about her. And then I picked, speaking of Pennywise the Clown, I picked Bill Skarsgård as Dorian.
Oh, okay.
He's a little freak.
He is a little freak.
He is a little freak. And I think he would do it great. So
I agree.
All right. Anybody else in the chat, please feel free to throw out names if you can think of anybody that you'd like to cast in this movie if it were done in 2024. What
about Sebastian Stan as Dorian?
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Especially like Sebastian Stan in like playing Tommy Lee. Like when he played, he kind of has that look with it. Like he's got the little scruff, and I don't know. No, I think that's pretty good. I love it. I love me some Sebastian Stan. Cillian Murphy as Dorian. He's got the look too. Like it's
their look, yeah.
Yeah, very similar to like a Skarsgård thing going on there. It's those cheekbones. It's the cheekbones and the hollow there. I'm gonna get that done.
The buccal fat.
I'm gonna get those pulled in so I look skinnier. I'm gonna be huge down here, but everybody's gonna think I'm super skinny by my face. Like that guy needs to eat, but I'm gonna be huge.
So you can call Matt Rife plastic surgeon
on purpose. I'm gonna get even bigger on the bottom. It's gonna be an optical illusion. All right. Fun facts. Before I go to you with whatever fun facts you've looked up, this movie has a body count, a kill count of 11. What? Somebody made an entire YouTube video about this.
11.
And counted it. 11 people died in this movie.
That's
12 if you count the deleted scene where Peggy gets killed.
Wow. Did the shop guys die, or they just had a bad time?
No, they just had a bad time.
Okay.
So a lot of it's like the goons.
Yes. I remember, at the end, I was like, oh yeah, like we have to do a body, like while everyone's getting shot up at the end. I'm like, we need to do a body count for this movie.
I won't stand for any Peggy hate in the comments. And I know it's coming from a certain sect of the watchers, and I won't stand for it.
And we support women's rights and wrongs.
That's right. All right. What are some things that you learned from this crazy ass movie?
So one thing that I have two others other than the Jack Russell one I wrote down. So the yellow suit is based on a suit that Jim Carrey's mom like made for him when he started doing stand up, which I thought was so cute.
That's very adorable.
Apparently she sewed him a yellow suit and that's what that is based on. I was like, that's fantastic.
My mom never sewed me a yellow suit.
Your mom has a whole sewing room.
I know. It's crazy.
We need to I feel like get that fixed immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want me to say my other one?
Yeah.
Okay. So Dorian says the party's over in 10 minutes and starts the bomb timer. And it's exactly 10 minutes to the movie's end. So it's not, which I always wonder that, like, whenever a bomb timer starts, I'm like, is it accurate? Like, is it actually am I going to watch 10 minutes of film and like, will 10 minutes lapse, or will the proper amount of time lapse as I'm watching? Or do they like speed it up or slow it down to make it match? For this one, it wasn't. So it's exactly 10 minutes until the end of the movie. So not when the bomb goes off, but when when you get the kiss, the final kiss from Cameron, from Cameron Diaz and Jim Carrey.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I had read that earlier and I wanted to actually time it to see if it was accurate or not. But I'm just going to go with everybody's researched word on this because it sounds cool, and yeah, I'm just going to go with it. Anything else that you wanted to point out?
Those were the big two.
I've got only a couple more. So the oversized teeth that he wore as the mask character were only supposed to be used during silent scenes, but Jim Carrey learned to talk with them, so it made his character that much more wacky.
Were there any scenes in the movie?
So, no, there were no silent scenes.
He was said, forget about that.
Yeah, it's wild. Like I already said that one. Okay, the different references, like cartoon references we have here, we've already discussed a few of them, but the Tasmanian Devil, all the spinning that the mask does is very Tasmanian. He's got the pillow in his...
that was a cool little Easter egg.
Pepe Le Pew is the romancing Tina in the park. Bugs Bunny dying in the gangster's arms and doing all that. Very Bugs Bunny. And then Tex Avery's Wolf, which we see him watching that Tex Avery cartoons earlier in the nightclub. This was also the first of over 10 Jim Carrey movies to reach 100 million domestically at the box office.
Wow.
And then...
So successful.
Yeah. My last two, and one we might have more info on or anything, but according to a feature on the DVD about Cameron Diaz, they originally wanted a more voluptuous body type, and the casting call even called her a perfect 10 and having a perfect hourglass figure like Jessica Rabbit, which was why Anna Nicole Smith was the original strong contender for the role. However, the director picked Cameron Diaz for the role, who was a bit slimmer than what the founder of New Line Cinema wanted. So because of this, and patriarchy and men being dogs and everything out there, they made her wear even tighter dresses so that they would push up her boobs even more.
I made that comment.
You did.
That's
why I brought them.
Horrific.
Yeah.
But that I literally had the thought, I said, wow, I did not think Cameron Diaz had that big of boobs. Like, I always thought of her as a more, not flat chested, but just a more slender person. That is horrific, but also kind of funny.
Yeah.
I'm glad they picked her. I thought she did a great job.
Yeah. And now we have 30 years of Cameron Diaz.
She rocks.
She rocks. You heard it here first, folks. And then also, just to kind of give you all a background on the comics behind this are much darker than this movie. He's not as zany, and he kills a lot more than and in the comics, he's not referred to as the Mask. He's referred to as Big Head. And Stanley only wears the mask for like the first part of the comics. And then he is shot to death by his girlfriend, who then takes the mask and wears it. And then she gets caught, and then like Kellaway ends up with the mask at some point. And actually in the comics, Kellaway is a much like more sincere and caring character than he is in the movie. So yeah, there's a lot of death in the Dark Horse comics. So yeah. And so that's what that's all the facts I have for this, but that's going to lead into a new segment that we have called The Big Question.
Answer the question.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Okay, but the big question on everybody's lips.
Yeah, they're chapped lips.
They're chapped lips, right?
Does that answer your question?
Good question, Aguado.
No, that's the most important question to which I hope to find an answer.
It's a bullshit question. It's impossible to answer.
Okay, so here's another question.
That's a good question. Oh.
Now that's $1 million question.
I really hate her. Yes. What's your question?
It's a question of prestige, is it?
Answer my question or you'll be standing tall before the man.
Whoa! Can you please tell us the question?
The ultimate question.
Yes!
Sorry for that being so long. It gives us a chance to get our breath and take a drink and everything. Welcome to The Big Question. It's so long. I love it. All right, and now it's time for the big question. I'd love for everybody in the chat to participate if you could, as well as Alyssa, obviously, and myself. But anyway, what movie, TV, book character would you like to see put on the mask? I know it's a thinker. I was specifically, and I'll start so you give you some time to think, because I've had a chance to think about this a little bit. I was thinking specifically about like our movies from last year and how some of these movies could drastically change for the better or the worse if a mask got introduced. And I was thinking like Groundhog Day, I think would be a hilarious thing if Phil Connors was able to put on the mask and that. And then I also thought of Jurassic Park and putting the mask on one of the T-Rexes. I think that would be a hoot. That movie would drastically change if we had that. Somebody in a chat, Mary Poppins. It's a great answer.
Wild.
Would she murder the children? Is it more of a
like timid characters that you want to like bust out and be ridiculous? Mary Poppins is an excellent example.
I think Mary Poppins with the mask on turns into the Cat in the Hat from the Cat in the Hat movie with Mike Myers.
Yes. Exactly.
I think that is the exact thing that happens.
Which is like one of the scariest movies ever to be created.
Yeah.
Whole reason why we will never get another Dr. Seuss movie ever again.
Yeah, thanks. Live action. No more live action Dr. Seuss.
Yes, they did The Grinch. And they got the green light for The Grinch. They did The Grinch. It was another Jim Carrey. And Dr. Seuss's wife was like, fine, The Grinch was great. You can do Cat in the Hat. And they did the Cat in the Hat. And she said, never again.
Never again.
Like forever. You are never allowed to make another Seuss movie.
Fact about the Cat in the Hat, though, it's kind of getting a resurgence. People are talking about it again like it is a great movie. So I may need to watch that and reevaluate.
It's not, but it is quite quotable. I think of Chocolate Thunder probably on a monthly basis.
I have no idea.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
But yeah, you raise a good point. Like, what timid characters can we think of that this would bring them out of their shell? Or what like evil characters would this just like heighten it just enough to where it's just insane?
Well, I'm thinking in the two movies that we did last year, Remains of the Day and The Age of Innocence. I need the guy from The Age of Innocence to wear the fucking mask and make a fucking decision. because then he would go with his mistress and actually do what needed to be done in that movie.
Sex.
They're just like, yeah, like it was ridiculous. He was just, but then it would have, and I love Remains of the Day so much. And even the way that it ended and how it went about was beautiful. But it would have been fun to watch this butler who's very uptight and only knows service, to put on this mask and watch him go crazy in the kitchen, or to be silly to kind of make the dinner party really wild, or to actually make a move on the head maid.
Oh, it would have been great.
Those are
Would've been great.
two that come to mind.
Yeah. Paddington Bear is another one from the chat that we're getting here. Do we think that Paddington Bear becomes just like a crazy zany bear, or do we think he becomes a sinister bear, like Five Nights at Freddy's, like he's gonna like kill everybody
I think
if he doesn't get his marmalade or whatever?
Get his marmalade. Be wild.
So anybody else? He becomes Cocaine Bear. That's great. That's exactly what happens with him. So I'm trying to think of any other characters. I was joking about a lot of characters from the 1993, and not very good jokes about them, because there are some movies we watched where I was like, "Hey, how does this work? Like, how does Tom Hanks in Philadelphia work with the mask on?"
Absolutely not.
He's saved.
He's saved.
He's saved. He can't die. He's immortal.
I guess.
That's the way to cure it.
Put it on Dr. Malcolm from
Ian Malcolm? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd give the mask to the T-Rex. I would not give the mask to the Velociraptors.
Fair.
They're too intense.
They're too intense.
Hands down. Trying to think of any of my favorite movies. Craziest 93 pick, Leprechaun.
The Leprechaun he already is wearing the mask.
Yes, he has himself that's a good like 1-2 pick if we're talking about like if you're going to watch this movie with another one. Leprechaun's a great one to go with this. It's green. There's a green theme here.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's the only thing. They're both stupid.
I want Marvel Loki to wear the mask.
Ooh,
like
that's a good one.
Like, or is like, would anything change? Would he or like some type of like crossover with the mask and the Marvel universe, and being like, Loki, is this yours?
Wow. That's pretty good. The sex appeal of Dr. Ian Malcolm if he got the mask.
I'm saying.
Lord.
Lord.
Lord. Jesus. This is getting out of control.
It's the big question.
It's the big question, and it's on everybody's minds. Well, I think that went pretty well. That was a successful big question.
I agree.
Good. That's all I need is your agreement. If you had to rewatch this movie and give it a rating, what would you give it?
You gave it a 1.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch it
again. This is what you have to watch. This is your hell.
This is horrible that we watched You People last year and I hated it. And
what do you mean, You People?
The movie You People.
Just kidding. I just wanted to.
As if we don't talk about You People once a week. I hated You People, and that was probably the worst movie that I have personally ever seen. And then anything I compare, any movie, if I did or didn't like it, if I didn't like it, I compare it to You People, and I go, was it as bad as You People? And I will say no, still not as bad as You People. I would rather watch this over You People. However, I would choose never to watch this again.
Yeah, yes, somebody in chat is absolutely correct. Still can't believe Rotten Tomatoes has this movie so high. 80% is insane.
I think there's a lot. I guess I'll talk about it a little bit with my movie pairing, but like I feel like this was quite a feat in 94. Like if you're through a 94 lens or through a nostalgia lens, I think that's what makes people rate this so high.
Yeah, it has to be. I gave it a 2 just because I'm a child. And I watched this movie a lot when I was a kid. What's your overall star rating?
I gave it a 2.
2. I gave it a 3. And mine comes with a stipulation because as a child, I thought this movie was the greatest movie ever made. Like I would quote this with my friends all the time on the playground. Is I 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old Cody thinks this is a 5-star movie.
Mm-hmm.
Me movie, so it gives it now, even with nostalgia, I give it like a 2.5. So at like maybe a 3 is what I do.
I wish I had the nostalgia for it. Like
no, you don't.
Well, as a first time watch, like, and with I there's a lot of things I wish were different with this movie.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wish that because I was like, what is happening? I kept what is happening over and over and over again. And we didn't get the Loki explanation until 2/3 of the way through. And I'm like, if we got that explanation after night 1, as opposed to after night 3, like I would have maybe been a little more into it.
Yeah.
Or I needed it to be in a different order. Like I was very confused. Yeah, my face the entire time was just like.
It really was. I turned to her several times, mouth wide open, just like, huh?
What is happening?
All right. Since you can't say anything nice about this movie, what can you say? What can you say something good? Say something good about it. Say the best thing that you can.
Jim Carrey is a genius.
Okay.
It is impressive. And there was a fun fact, I didn't write it down, but they ended up saving a lot of money in the movie on the set because they didn't have to spend a lot of money on special effects because Jim Carrey can just move his face and body in such strange ways that they were like, oh, like he can just do it. We don't have to edit this in post, like, which is crazy. And again, I'm always impressed by improv like that, like to just come up with silly things off the top of his head and situations and lines. And I just think he is very, very talented. And this movie does just showcase what he can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give it that. It doesn't mean I want to watch it again.
I think this is a kid's movie. And that is despite the fact that there is a lot of violence and a lot of language in this movie. I think this is a perfect, like, 10 to 13-year-old sleepover movie. And, like, this is, like, kids would laugh at this so much because I was a kid that laughed at this movie so much. So, like, I think it is a perfect, like, secret kids movie.
Mm-hmm, I agree.
That's what I'll say. All right. Like a fine wine and dish, if you could pair this with another movie for a double feature, what would you choose?
So I picked 2. The first one I picked is The Grinch because it is one of my personal favorite movies. And it's a movie where Jim Carrey wears a green mask and has to make funny faces.
That's a pretty good one. I think it's a good one.
The second one that I wanted to talk about a little bit is Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Is that on?
That's what's playing on the background.
Funny. Because I know I've seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It was like the first time in like movie history that they were able to pair real life people with cartoons on the same screen, right? Mm-hmm. And this reminded me of that so much with how cartoonish Jim Carrey's character was. And when Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out, like that movie was fine. It was good. But again, what was exciting about it was that it was a new technological feat. And I think that is maybe also part of why people might like The Mask, is because it was a technological feat to be able, like, it's something that we don't see often, to see this mixture of human, real life person and cartoon in the same frame. We see it with Mary Poppins as well. But the silliness, I think, of Who Framed Roger Rabbit was what stuck out to me.
Yeah, I agree. I like those. Those are great pairings. And that's one of the reasons I put Roger Rabbit on the background back there. You've got that, like, the cartoonishness, the Tex Avery-ness, the Bugs Bunny-ish stuff of it. So definitely put that on the background. My 2 movies that I said, The Nutty Professor was the very first thing that I could think of. And I'm talking about The Nutty Professor starring Eddie Murphy, where he plays like 17 different roles. But it is very much that same, like, Jekyll and Hyde, like, he doesn't think he's good enough as himself, and he creates a better version, a suave version of himself, and goes on dates with Janet Jackson. And she kind of likes this guy, but he's also a little bit too pushy and a little bit too full of himself, kind of like The Mask in that scene in the park. So I kept thinking of it as that Jekyll and Hyde thing. And then here's another one, again, with that, not as much magically Jekyll and Hyde, but I picked Disney's Aladdin. He is the street rat to the Prince Ali. So I thought guys changing who they are to fit this mold, or think that they are not good enough, and then find out that they are good enough in the end, and they don't need the special pack. They don't need a genie. They don't need a concoction or chemical thing to make them better. It was inside them all along.
I like that one.
It was the friends we made along the way that mattered.
That's great.
That is great. That's it, I think. Unless there's anything else that we need to talk about for this 52/1994 entry of The Mask.
I don't think so.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Alyssa, for your analysis and sitting through this movie with me, even though I even tried to warn you a couple times. I was like, are you sure?
You
and
did.
you just didn't know. And that's okay. We'll do it again. I'll surprise you with another one. But I always like to end on movie recommendations with my guests. So is there anything that you've watched recently that has really stuck out to you that you'd recommend to the people?
Not really. I watched a lot of, like, over the holiday, I watched a lot of, like, bad Hallmark movies, and I don't necessarily recommend. I recommend playing Animal Crossing. That's all I've been doing for the last month. And if you have it and you haven't played it in a while, you should go back and do that, and also come visit my island. And I think that's I don't have much to recommend right now.
All right, that's okay. Animal Crossing for all you gamers out there. If you are not playing Animal Crossing, get out there and play it. I don't really have anything. I did watch. I think you recommended this early on whenever you were first on. But Rye Lane is a amazing rom-com that Alyssa's been trying to get me to watch for a year, and I finally got around to it. It's a British rom-com. It's very stylized. It's very unique in what its presentation is. And I recommend that to anybody. It's on Hulu right now. Check that out. It's a really good 2023 movie. But next week's movie is Dumb and Dumber. We already talked about it a little bit, and it is currently streaming on demand. I think it's Dumb and Dumber. I might have gotten that wrong.
I thought it was Ace Ventura.
It might be Ace Ventura. Now I'm confused and not sure. I've got them all written down, folks. I swear to you. Maybe I got too excited for Dumb and Dumber.
We can do Dumb and Dumber next week.
It is Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber is next week, January 14th. We've got it listed down here. It is streaming only on demand right now. So check that out if you can. There might be other ways. You might have it on DVD. You might have it on your parents' VHS. So go home, visit your parents, and watch it on a VCR that I'm sure they still have hooked up. So go check that out. And don't forget, we have special episodes that we're going to be doing monthly. They're going to be near the end of the month. And if you want to follow along with those, you can. I am not encouraging everybody to watch every single film because a lot of these movies are things that we've seen from our childhood or things that we grew up watching. And some of them might be new to us. So I will say to check those out. This month, we're doing kids sports movies from the 1994 year, which include D2, The Mighty Ducks, Little Big League, Angels in the Outfield, Little Giants, Next Karate Kid. So we're going to be talking about those at the end of the month. So watch those movies. Some of those are out there to stream. Some of them are not, a little bit harder to find. So, be sure to check those out if you want to come in and participate in that special episode we're doing at the end of the month. Also, feel free to, if you're watching on Twitch, give me a follow. If you're listening to this on Spotify, subscribe to that, or YouTube, or any of these things out there. Search for it. I do have a link tree set up on any of these things. So if you do click that, you'll find all the links to all of the places you can find 52 info. And one thing I will encourage everybody to do, if you do have this, is join the Discord that we have. That way you can talk about movies all week long. Spencer's in there. Joseph's in there. They're lonely. They want people to talk about movies with them. So if you do want another app on your phone or your computer, download Discord, get in the conversation. You can get there from the invite that is listed in my link tree. So that is all of the stuff that I have to give you. I had a great time talking with you, Alyssa. Thank you so much. And I've had a great time talking with you guys in the chat. And we'll see you next week for Dumb and Dumber here on 52/1994.
Go now. We're right in the middle of Charlotte's Web.
Sorry, baby. I tried the best I could. Honest.
What's up, Butters? What's up,